All right, Jason, today we're going to talk about, is it worth it to live in the Seattle area?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, we're going to break it down into five different sections. First, financial impact, your environment, things to do, people, and then maybe a few cons. All right, let's kick it off with financial impact. So Seattle is, across the board, ranked as one of the healthiest economies in the country.
And it makes sense. I mean, like if you watch all of our other videos, there's tech.
Okay, but I do also want to stress that we are not just a tech-filled city. We have a huge art community.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Like, so if you live in, either on either side of the lake, if you watch the videos, there's the Seattle side, and on the east side of the lake is where we live, Kirkland, Bellevue area. And both sides have these art walks.
Yeah, art walks. We have art museums, multiple art museums. And Chihuly has a big presence here. But then also think about it too, from a career standpoint. Amazon needs graphic designers. Microsoft needs graphic designers. They need artists. So it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit.
And even being from here, I know you mentioned Chihuly. Chihuly's a massive artist, right? And it's not just him. He's got this whole studio. Yeah. So there's a lot
He does the blown glass.
Yeah. So there's a lot of glass blowers in the area. And just artists in general. I'm not an arty kind of guy.
Yeah.
Artsy kind of guy. But there are artists all over the place.
Okay, so we have a super healthy economy with a lot of career opportunities here. Also, from a real estate perspective, your investment and your return on investment is greater than in other parts of the country.
I think that's super interesting. So I think about, let's not even talk about the house that we live in now. Your sister and us bought houses about the same time, our last house.
Okay, so my family lives in Michigan.
Okay, so she bought her house for about $400,000, and we bought our house, the last house, for $500,000.
Yep.
Right, so their house now in Michigan is probably worth about $500,000 at the most, $475,000 or $500,000. And granted, their mortgage is lower.
Yeah.
But starting at the same time, theirs was $400,000 and ours was $500,000. That house that we sold already, that we bought for $500,000 about the same time, is now worth well over $1.5 million.
Yeah, so it's tripled. Our investment in our home tripled, while my sister's in Michigan went up a tick.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at again, I don't want to dive too much into real estate, but condos don't necessarily do the same thing, but single family houses, for sure, there's a big upside.
Yep. Okay, so another piece of the financial portion of why it's great to live in Seattle is that the average resident or residents of the Seattle area make more than the average person in the country. Yeah. So their income is more.
Okay. Do we know how much that is?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's true. I mean,
salaries are higher.
Yeah. So salaries are higher, which is a really good thing, but the cost of living typically is more. Again, your sister's still living in a $500,000 house, and now houses here.
Yeah. So it's all, I guess it's all relative to where you live. Yeah. And then a big piece that people may not realize, there's no state income tax.
And that's a huge deal.
Huge.
Yeah, huge deal. So again, I was talking to a friend who lives in Oregon, and so just in general, if you live in Oregon and you make $100,000, you got another 10% that goes to the government. And in Seattle, you don't.
Yeah, so my only reference point to this is when I lived in Milwaukee after college, and I would do my tax return on whatever TurboTax or whatever.
Did you know how to do that?
I did. Well, I probably did it incorrectly every time. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I would have to do one for my federal tax return and one for my state tax return. Here, you just got to do one.
Yeah.
The environment. And so that means a few different things.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, so first of all, we live in an extremely environmentally friendly state. The people here are environmentally conscious. There's so many people who use solar panels
or composting.
I mean,
all just growing up here, people were recycling was way before any other part of the country.
Right.
So people really care. You even think about this as if you've watched our videos, we're building a house. It's hard to cut down a tree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can't even let you do it.
Yeah. You can't just bust out your axe and cut down a tree.
Yeah.
You need to get a permit because Seattle is so
We're trying to protect the environment. And with that, we are surrounded by lush green forestry everywhere you look. But along with that, also the water. So it's just, the air feels really clean and clear here.
I think just in general, what people when you're flying into Seattle, right, you're coming down on an airplane for the first, not like a bird.
Yeah.
You're flying, it is really pretty.
That's my last piece of this. This is the most gorgeous city in the world. As someone who came from the Midwest, which I love the Midwest, but I love it for the people, not how it looks, where it's like flat and brown. And like, think about the wintertime when the snow turns brown and it's just not pretty anymore. Like, you come to Seattle and it is gorgeous.
There is no brown snow here. That kind of takes us into the next point of like the things you can do because it's so pretty here, you know, that gives people who are moving here and like a real flair for the outdoors.
Yeah. So a lot of people here, not us, are outdoorsy.
I'm just looking outside our window.
Our outdoor activity is golfing.
But that is outdoorsy.
Well, yes, but also we have such a large community of people who go hiking and camping, and that's all just like a hop, skip, and jump away.
Well, you're saying hiking and camping, but you're also talking like the mountains. If you want to go snow skiing, that's 40 minutes away.
Yep.
Water skiing.
Water skiing right here.
I think of our friends who live on the lake. We have one friend that goes, even in the wintertime, she goes water skiing every day. That's crazy, but she does it.
So if you live an active lifestyle, this area completely caters to that. But also we have the major sports team. We've got the Seahawks for the NFL team, the Mariners. We have the Kraken for our hockey team. We have the women's WNBA team. And
maybe the basketball team's coming, the men's basketball.
Rumor has it, it's being announced.
Come on.
Pretty soon. We'll see about that. So that's always fun to do. We also have all the big things that major cities have, like a Top Golf and a Great Wolf Lodge and the aquarium and the zoo. And we have the whale watching, like I said. What other kind of things?
And there's just like in general, there's a big foodie scene, right?
Okay, so that's kind of getting into people. So the one thing about Seattle is it is extremely diverse, and which is I think is a really positive thing.
So growing up here, it wasn't like that at all. Like I even remember friends who, in general, like even living on this east side, where you always keep on talking about it. I know it's confusing if you don't live here. But it wasn't as diverse. In the Seattle area was diverse. Okay. And now
it's kind of flip-flop.
I think it's flip-flop, but in general, like there's all shades of people, different languages, all like
we are a true melting pot out here. And with that brings a diversity in restaurants and foods, which is super fun. As someone who's not adventurous with eating, I've really come a long way since my Midwestern days.
Oh my God, when Molly first moved here, I said, I think it was one of the first times, not even moved here, when you came to visit here, I'm like, you want me to pick up teriyaki? And you're like, who?
Yeah, I had no idea what teriyaki was.
What's teriyaki? Like, I think you just think it's a sauce. But in Seattle,
but that's not even like a diverse food. Like, I ate sushi here for the first time, and there's Indian, and there's Thai food, and we just have it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I love it. And we're still working on this one to try everything.
I am working on it. Another thing about the people, this is an interesting fact. Half the people here in the Seattle area have a bachelor's degree. That's double the U.S. average. So we have intellects in our city.
Yeah, well, I think that could be a pro or a con because either A, you're going to be having really interesting conversations, or people will think they're better than you.
No, maybe. There may be a piece of that.
But, well, hold on. We both have bachelor's degrees, and I won't speak for you, but I'm really dumb.
Oh, you are not dumb. Okay, so then let's talk about, that's a lot of positive stuff. Let's talk about a few cons.
There's nothing bad about living here.
Well, I think one of the big, the elephant in the room that everyone thinks about with Seattle is the weather and the rain. I will tell you, Seattle is not the rainiest city in the U.S.
What is?
I think it's like Spokane or something like that.
I thought, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I thought even New England gets more rain.
Or maybe, yeah. We're not either. So our winters are gloomy and gray, but it doesn't rain every day, and our summers are spectacular.
Well, okay, you're going back to positive.
Okay, I'm just trying to put a positive spin on it.
So summers are awesome. So I've had friends that have come here and they're like, I've been here 5 times in the summers and it's always awesome.
Yeah,
it's not super hot. It's 75 or 80 degrees. But the winters, it doesn't rain as much as you think. But it's like you glossed over this a little bit. It's gray. It is gray.
Super depressing.
Whoa.
Okay, wait. It's not that depressing. You just take a little vacation.
Some people think it's depressing.
You're recharged.
You do need to plan a getaway in the wintertime to get away from the gray.
That February time frame.
We all get excited living here. In the winter when it's super cold, it's because there's no cloud cover and it's just cold, but it's clear.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. But those are days we celebrate.
The traffic
is the worst.
This is an interesting one because pre-COVID, it was literally top 3 worst in the nation. Okay. But then COVID hit, no one was on the road. And now that we're kind of coming out of COVID timeframe, it's starting to ramp back up again. And we don't have great public transportation here, but it is getting better because they are building all these monorails that go into into Seattle.
Yeah.
So
if you live in a big, I have clients that moved here from New York or somewhere where they have this public transportation, these like train systems, basically. What do they call it in New York? Just the subway.
The subway.
They call it the subway. We don't call it the subway. Subway here means basically a bus.
Yeah.
Right? But they are building all these public transportation. So if you need to go from Kirkland, where we live, or Bellevue into Seattle, you'll be able to jump on the light rail and just fly in.
Yeah.
It hasn't been like that, but if you look around town now, the construction is everywhere.
Like crazy.
It's everywhere.
They're fixing it currently as we speak. So
it's like going right through Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. To live comfortably in Seattle, you have to make, or in the Seattle area, you have to make at least $72,000 a year.
$72,062 per year.
Oh, was that specific?
It was a very specific number.
Okay.
And that number may mean a lot of different things to different people, right? Like it depends on how much you make now. I remember thinking if I ever made $72,000, you'd feel rich, right?
Yeah.
But like if you're coming out of college, it may seem like a lot of money, but in general, it is hard to buy a house or a condo if you're making $72,000. But in general, people just make more money here.
Yeah, so I actually don't believe this stat that to live comfortably in Seattle, you have to make $72,000. I think you have to make double that to live comfortably here.
Well, it's also what is comfortably like for your vision.
Being able to have a home, own a home, not be living paycheck to paycheck. It's just, I mean, that the truth of it is, it's just more expensive to live here.
Yeah.
So that could be seen as a con. Cost of living, we're the 5th most expensive in the nation. So
yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with housing prices.
Yeah.
Right. Like I remember thinking 10 years ago, I remember somebody moving up here from a client actually moving up here from San Francisco, and they sold their little house for like $1 million. It was a little Rambler. And I was like, who would ever buy a Rambler for $1 million in San Francisco?
You can't even get dirt here for $1 million.
Yeah. And so now it's like that here, but it's more in San Francisco. But with that being said, people typically make more money living here. They're more intellectual and don't look down on you all the time because they're so smart, but it is expensive.
And for those people who, $1 million house is way out of their price range, which is a lot of people, there are pockets and areas that you can go and live more affordably. They're just a little further out from the city, but it's possible.
But that's where the light rail is going to be real beneficial.
Yeah.
So for people who don't want to get stuck in the traffic, right? So if you live further north or south, let's say 20 miles from the city, you will be able to do that. You'll be able to buy a home for $500,000 or so and be able to take the train in and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, so it's not impossible. There's a few negatives to living here, but I'd say for the most part, it's a really great place to live.
Okay, I want to finish this up. You talk a lot. Okay?
Okay.
You run this thing. So you've lived in the Midwest mostly.
Yep.
And in Seattle area. What do you prefer?
So that's a good question. I prefer Seattle. Hands down.
Because?
It's just gorgeous. It's just the most beautiful place. The weather is mild all the time versus where I came from in Michigan. I live in Michigan, Indiana, Milwaukee. The winters are brutal, like with all that snow, and it can snow all the way up till May, which is crazy. And then the summers, it gets so hot and muggy, you don't even want to be outside.
Did you get those in what city gets the big bugs?
The cicadas?
The cicadas.
Yeah, the Midwest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's get a crap out of me.
Yeah, I know. So, but that only happens like every 17 years.
Oh, big deal.
So,
you'll just be
I just love the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. I love the diversity, and I love that there's so much to do out here.